Finally tonight, there's nothing like the feeling of young love at any age. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
The Cedar Lake Village Senior Living Center in Olathe, Kansas, isn't exactly known for its singles scene.
And I do like the way they make oatmeal here. Don't you think it's nice and creamy?
But widowers Doris Kirks and Carl Kraus, both 96, found love nonetheless, and just last month became America's oldest newlyweds. It's a relationship that started on cue. Carl was one of the best billiard players in the building until she moved in and started beating the socks off him.
Too bad, Carl.
Were you surprised that she could shoot as well as she did?
Yes, I was definitely surprised. She's a hustler.
It's a good feeling to beat men.
Eventually, rivalry led to romance. Doris and Carl started exploring their shared interests. Carl thought they made beautiful music together and proposed, to which Doris responded, absolutely not.
I wasn't looking for a man.
Ouch.
Doris may have been a firm no, but Carl was a stubborn beau. So a couple months later, he asked again. Only this time he tried a whole different approach. Showed her the larger apartment he had in mind.
So up we go to the second floor and went to this room. Oh, this is pretty nice. And then he showed me the walk-in closet.
And Doris says that sealed the deal.
This could work.
Told him yes, right then and there.
What's it like to be loved for your walk-in closet?
It's okay.
This is it.
Of course, Doris says Carl also made more room in his heart.
He told me he was dedicated to making this a happy marriage. Warms my heart.
Chalk one up for true love. Steve Hartman.
Congratulations.
On the road in Olathe, Kansas.
Harry S. Truman, welcome home.
It is a once-in-a-lifetime view as the massive Navy carrier, the USS Harry S. Truman, pulls into port. The thousands of sailors streaming off the boat haven't seen their families in months.
Go see Daddy!
Their history-making mission was a strategic success, but it was, at times, unsettling for the sailors and their families. We flew out to meet the sailors for their final days on board. From the flight deck, the size of 4 football fields, to the cramped hallways.
No one really knows what it's like to be on a ship.
These young men and women in uniform were reflecting on their journey.
What's the hardest thing about being at sea and being away from family?
I'd probably say missing my first child's birth.
For culinary specialist Devin Dias, the mission, his first, has been one of both excitement and sacrifice.
I'm gonna get you.
Devin's wife, Taylor Dias, went into labor in October.
I called my wife. I was like, baby, you all right? Is everything good? She's like, well, I'm just having a baby. I was actually very, very fortunate to be on the phone with her during the birth. So every scream, growl, push, I got to hear. What really changed my perspective was I heard him whenever he first came out, whenever he cried. It actually brought tears to my eyes.
Navy paralegal Faith Guidry Jackson, also on her first deployment, is worrying about her children, too.
I've kind of been out of the loop for 3 months.
Has it been harder on any one of the 3?
My youngest, Marley, she's 4. She has these night terrors, where she's calling out for me, but I'm not there.
Faith's husband, Levon, has been a solo parent to their 3 kids while working in a barber shop in Norfolk.
It's been crazy. It's been hard. They miss their mom more than anything because they miss that feminine energy that she brings into the house.
The 24/7 nature of the ship keeps the sailors busy, leaving less time to think about those they've left behind. And the Navy provides some comforts of home.
I got a good haircut, so I feel good about myself today.
From a barber shop to a library, even a Starbucks. But there are some things they can't provide. Cryptologic technician Mike Geske and his fiancée, Connie Kolzicki, got engaged over the phone while they were apart.
Connie's the love of my life. I don't know where I would be without her.
But he never officially popped the question with ring in hand.
We were pulling into Portugal earlier than we expected. And my parents somehow found a flight out to Portugal, and I told them, as long as you're coming here, you might as well bring the ring with you.
You excited to meet your dad?
While anxious families at home wait for the last few days of deployment to pass, on the ship, there's still work to be done, like getting the carrier's air wing off.
We are one of the last helicopters taking off from the USS Truman. That's why we can't use our normal camera equipment. The planes are gone. Now that the helicopters are gone, all that's left is for the sailors to arrive home, and that comes tomorrow.
The family reunions and the overwhelming emotions that come with them begin here.
Weston's lost.
Weston's lost.
It's over there. Weston! Come here, buddy! Come on, buddy.
Attack 1-0. Over.
Back on board.
I'm a little nervous, I guess.
Nervous, anxious, excited.
Really nervous.
The final days turn to hours, then to minutes. As the sailors line up for the traditional manning of the rails and Naval Station Norfolk comes into view, home is finally within their grasp.
Oh my God, I'm about to cry. I see my baby.
On the pier, anticipation is building. After months apart, those final minutes are agonizing for everyone, especially for a new dad like Devin Dias, about to meet his son for the first time.
Thank you. How's it feel? Want to give me a kiss?
LaVon Jackson doesn't even try to contain his excitement.
So the two of you are together. Now what?
Now we're gonna go get the kids.
Faith's children didn't know that mom was coming home. Her deployment now over.
Hey, guys!
Who's that? Go get her.
Hey, baby. I miss you. Hey, baby, I miss you.
You all right, man? You can cry. You all right?
I miss you. I miss you too. Hey! Hey!
Back on the pier, sailors step back on land, ready to swap Navy life for home life. And for one young couple,
This is so nerve-wracking. I don't know what to do.
a chance to start theirs.
Now.
Do it! Of course.
Will you marry me?
Of course.
I love you.
I love you more.
Griffin Madden and his girlfriend, Saya Tomaoka, love to dance on rooftops and in nightclubs. But just before midnight on December 2nd, the dancing stopped. Griffin was trapped inside the massive warehouse fire in Oakland, California. 36 people died, including Griffin. Saya was not there. In her grief, she remembered a moment the two shared in New York last year. They had just seen the Book of Mormon on Broadway. On Facebook, she wrote, "The city was so beautiful, and amidst all the lights, I got to look at the brightest light of all, my sweetie. I cried, and we kissed." A photographer nearby captured the moment, Saya's red lipstick still on Griffin's cheek.
They look like nobody else exists.
Arkin Avan took the photo. It was one of 200,000 he's taken on the streets of New York. But for Saya, this became everything. After the fire, she tried to track down the photographer to get a copy. Maybe some Facebook miracle could happen. Please share, she wrote. Thousands of people did. Avan saw the post and sent the picture.
I can give her this picture as a memory of her love of Griffin, and I hope she will keep that for forever.
Saya is not ready to talk about her loss, but she did write a tribute to Griffin. I have been hoping for a miracle, a glimpse of your light back into my life. With the infinite help from our families, friends, and strangers, I finally found you. And in this moment, where time will always stand still, she never has to let go. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Los Angeles.
For Valentine's Day, Steve Hartman's found a story that proves true love is eternal. So here's tonight's On the Road.
This week, 45-year-old Corey Cunningham was rushed to Houston Methodist Hospital, the first patient ever brought here to have his bachelor status removed. Corey has an incurable brain tumor. He's on home hospice, but the good doctors and nurses at Houston Methodist brought him back to the chapel and arranged all this just so Corey could cross off the only thing on his bucket list: get married. Taisha Evans is his bride.
That was the one thing he wanted to do before he died.
Taisha and Corey dated 7 years, and although he knew he wanted to marry her from the moment they met, she turned down his proposal nearly a dozen times.
Because his job was more important.
Corey worked in oil and gas, traveled the world, and made good money.
Money was everything to Corey.
But not to her.
Hi, Taisha.
Taisha always said she would never marry a guy who was never around.
And my husband.
So, what changed?
Having to hold?
It's not what you think. Taisha says pity played no part in her change of heart. She says Corey still had to prove he was the man of her dreams. Fortunately, one of the few blessings of a terminal illness is to understand what true love takes.
Everything about him is just completely different. When you walk in the room, you could feel it.
The first step in his transformation? Acknowledging he'd been a fool.
Yes, because I could have been spending more time with her.
The second step? Making up for all that lost time.
Was it a sense of relief when you finally got married? What are you laughing at?
I feel like I'm the luckiest man alive.
This Valentine's weekend, a lot of guys and girls will celebrate with fine food and even finer jewelry. But not these newlyweds. From this day forward, for worse, for poorer, and in sickness, Corey and Taisha will honor the harshest demands of their wedding vows. Because they know those are the only parts of the promise that guarantee you a happily ever after. Steve Hartman, On the Road in Houston, Texas.
To love and to cherish, as the vows go.
We end tonight with another notable celebration in England today. The wedding of George Kirby and Doreen Lucky was one for the record books. Here's Charlie Daggett.
George and Doreen will be celebrating tonight, in proving you're never too old to fall in love. Sure, at 103, George Kirby's hearing isn't what it used to be.
Hi, George. Take thee, Doreen. What? Take thee. Take Doreen.
The vows needed repeating a couple of times. But his heart beats just as strong as it ever did. And the blushing bride, 91-year-old Doreen Lucky, was beaming.
Bit of a surprise, really.
Hey?
After all this time, getting married again.
Doreen was a widow when they became an item 27 years ago. But last Valentine's Day, George decided it was time to take things further, with a little prodding from his son Neil.
They've been together for 27 years, nearly 28 years this year. They've been living in whatever you want to call it. And I said to Dad, why don't you make an honest woman of Doreen?
And so he popped the question, although George says he didn't get down on one knee because he didn't think he'd be able to get back up. Before retirement, Doreen worked as a legal secretary. George was in the Royal Air Force, a boxer, and a good one, undefeated in all 60 fights he entered.
Husband and wife.
And when they made their vows, they broke some records. With a combined age of 194, they're certainly the oldest newlyweds in Britain, maybe even the world. They're not sure yet where they'll spend their honeymoon. What's the rush? They've made a lifelong commitment to have and to hold. At long last, love. Charlie Daggett, CBS News, London.
We end the week with a story about the power of love. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
Thank you all for coming to this special occasion.
Deep in New York's Adirondack Mountains, friends and family gathered to help 59-year-old Chris Sharoon DeForge pay tribute to her remarkable husband.
Your marriage to Paul was one for the history books.
What did you love about him?
Yeah.
His sense of humor. He got me laughing and everything. He was the one for me.
That's him?
That's me and my Polly.
Chris and Paul met in 1988, and after dating 5 years, they became one of the first couples in the world with Down syndrome to get married.
I proposed to him.
You proposed to him?
Yes. I whispered in his ear, would you marry me? And he looked up with me with his big, beautiful smile. He shook his head, yes.
What's on the menu for tonight?
But Chris's sister, Susan Sharoon, says it took a lot more than yes to get them to I do. There were marriage classes, counseling sessions, and a whole lot of pushback from supposedly able-minded people.
Yeah, there really was quite a bit of resistance. There was a feeling that it was like children getting married versus two, very capable adults.
Today, people with Down syndrome who want to get married still face resistance. There's still some question as to whether couples like Chris and Paul love as deeply as the rest of us. And in fact, we saw evidence that maybe they don't, that maybe their love is deeper.
Thanks to you and Paul, everyone here has seen what true love looks like.
At the end of the ceremony,
beautiful.
Chris spread a portion of her husband's ashes near the lake where he loved to fish.
Yes, you love him so much.
The rest will be mixed with hers one day.
I love you.
And buried together.
I did the best I can.
You were the best wife any husband could ever have.
It was an intensely intimate moment, shared with you today for a reason.
What I hope is that other families will entertain this. Other people will recognize the importance of this kind of, intimate love.
People like us need to have a chance.
Chance at what?
A chance to find the man of your dreams like I did.
Are you going to be able to be happy again?
To be honest, I don't know. I just lost the man that I love. But I'm going to try.
And even if she doesn't succeed, Chris says it's still far better to have loved and lost than to be told you can never love at all. Steve Hartman, on the road, in New York's Adirondack Mountains.
What a beautiful and barrier-breaking love story.
For Valentine's Day this morning, a heartwarming story of love lost and found. A Colorado woman was looking to buy old records her mom used to sing along to, but she ended up finding 70-year-old lost love letters from World War II. Then she set out to find the man who wrote them. Eileen Ortiz of Westminster, Colorado, recently found a letter tucked away in a vinyl record she purchased at a local thrift store. Dated January 1945, the letter is from a 20-year-old Bill Moore serving overseas in Patton's army to his then-girlfriend, Bernadine.
My darling, lovable, alluring Bernadine, you are so lovely, darling, that I often wonder how it is possible that you are mine.
Ortiz asked a local news channel to find the couple who would marry and have 3 children, including Melinda Gale.
I can't believe this. Eileen found this. Most of their dating was through letters in the war. And that was the one thing I really remember her talking about, was just it meant everything to get that letter, and we can't find them. So this is the only original that we would have.
Bernadine Moore passed away 5 years ago.
I loved her. I knew I wanted to marry her.
Her 90-year-old husband lives in an assisted living facility for veterans.
When you're apart for that reason, not knowing if and when you would ever see that person again, every chance you got to communicate was wonderful.
We were seeing the true depth of my parents' love. Their love sets such a beautiful example for what life can be.
Finally tonight, if there is any doubt about the strength of the bond between a father and daughter, CBS's David Begnaud shows us proof that a father's love is forever.
Gregory Holmes was a veteran, a church deacon, and above all, a dad to 3 daughters.
He had affectionate names for each of them.
Nichelle was his little lady. Nia he called baby doll. And Nicole, she was big stuff. Holmes taught them to work hard and be smart. And being smart meant buying their first home. Nichelle did just that. And the mail soon brought a letter from Daddy.
Congratulations, little lady. You're now the queen of your castle. Congratulations on home ownership. I'm so proud of you. Love, Daddy.
When Nia bought a home, she too got the letter, addressed to Baby Doll, and signed Daddy. Then it was Nicole's turn.
Nicole closes on her home. Nicole didn't get a letter.
You see, Gregory Holmes died last year in a motorcycle accident. It left a void in Nicole's home and in her heart. Until just a few weeks ago when her mom, Teresa, was going through some papers. And there it was.
And I'm blown away. I'm crying. It was a letter to Nicole.
Turns out Daddy hadn't forgotten about her. You might say he's watching over her. As the deacon preached many times, love never dies. David Begnaud, CBS News, New York.
In this fire, Daniel Lyon faced the unimaginable. In blinding smoke, the engine he was riding in crashed.
All you see at that point is flame. The intense feeling that your entire body was burning.
He was the only one to make it out of the crash alive. Daniel's parents, Dan and Barbara, vividly remember the phone call from another firefighter.
He says, it looked like Daniel came, as an angel came running out of the flames of hell. And it was just, wow.
This is what Daniel looks like a year after the fire, with burns over nearly 70% of his body.
I mean, I thank God that I can still see.
His sight saved by these singed sunglasses. A watch still working is another reminder.
I kind of have a natural tattoo on my wrist now.
That's where the watch was.
That's where the watch was.
Daniel has now undergone 14 surgeries at Seattle's Harborview Burn Center.
Did you feel guilty for surviving?
Yeah, of course you do. Survivor's guilt's a real thing. You constantly ask yourself, why am I here and they're not? Why was I given a second chance and they didn't get that second chance?
But Daniel's recovery is now more than just about survival.
Did you have a girlfriend before you got burned?
I didn't. No, I did not.
Megan Lanfear was a casual friend.
Your friend's in a fire, you're going to want to be there for him.
But the friendship turned into something more.
Even after all he's been through, he still always has a smile on his face, and he's just super strong. He's a really good person. He shows me love, respect. He's the best boyfriend.
Fire can destroy, but it can also regenerate. And here, out of the ashes, something special has bloomed. Carter Evans, CBS News, Ording, Washington.
You might be surprised to learn that the youngest and oldest Americans are the most likely to be single in America, and many of them are ready to mingle. I spoke with some mature singles to find out why it's never too late to find love.
How do you get back on the dating scene when you are over 50 or even over 60?
No luck, but I had 15 scammers.
I've been dating online for the last year and a half.
It's a popular question burning up TikTok from mature singles. How and where can they find love?
The dating app thing is just not for me. I'm old school.
Table number 11, raise your hand.
Gail Adams is old school too. The 64-year-old created 7 in Heaven Singles, a dating service that hosts in-person activities for people of all ages to find romance.
It was my little side gig, and then in 2008, I lost my job. So I made my side job my full-time job.
And so even in the recession, dating is big business?
Absolutely. They came, recession and all. Singles want love.
There are more than 27 million singles over 60. Since 2013, online dating for this age group has doubled.
A lot of younger people might think senior citizens, they don't really have a lot of dates or sex. What's it like out there?
Oh, no, they're definitely, they're my biggest numbers.
On this night on Long Island, 24 people between the ages of 50 and 65 showed up for a night of speed dating. We popped in to see if Cupid's arrow might strike.
How do you feel about tonight?
Tonight, I'm looking forward to it. It's not like when you were 20 years old. You went into a bar, girls all over, guys all over. Yeah, you met somebody.
So why did you come here?
Why did I? Well, my husband passed about 7 years ago, and as I was a 49-year-old widow, I am now in the dating scene.
Why do you think there are so many single older people now?
I think this generation, which is my generation, is the generation that said, if I'm not in a happy marriage, I'm leaving. My mother's generation, my father's generation, they were taught, you stay together, you know, and they did stay together.
Dinner a little late tonight, dear?
Patience, Papa.
Had to straighten up my dressing table.
And today's world looks a little less Ward and June Cleaver. Between 1990 and 2015, the divorce rate among older adults more than doubled. And researchers say there are many factors, including a sharp rise in women entering the labor market that allowed wives to afford divorce.
I think if I couldn't afford to get divorced, I wouldn't have gotten divorced.
Susan Rosenthal, a 72-year-old litigator in New York City, has been dating for 20 years.
Are you still hopeful you'll find love?
I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't hopeful. And I love meeting people.
These days, that's mostly online.
What's the biggest difference dating today versus before you were first married?
When I started dating in my 40s, there was a lot more game playing. My mother said you reach an age and you don't really care what other people think, and I have reached that age, so I can be true to myself.
But some of the trials and tribulations of dating among mature adults might feel more familiar to a younger age group. Freddie Velasquez says they get ghosted too.
Presently, the girl I'm dating happened to go and take care of her mother. And we haven't spoken in a while.
But why is it so important to have love in your life?
I think that's important in everybody's life, you know, to have that moment where you can sit down and be happy to be with the one that's compatible with you, talks to you, laugh with you.
You're looking for that moment.
Yes, and I'm not going to give up on that moment.
And according to Gail Adams, he has good reason to hold on to hope.
And how many matches have you made?
Oh, lots. Some have stuck, some have not stuck, some come back again.
Is it ever too late to find love?
No. I got remarried at age 62. I've had couples on my events that have met and in the 70s that have gotten married.
What's your advice to mature singles who are maybe ready just to give up?
Don't give up. I mean, because you just don't know what's around the corner. But if you just let it go and just want it, it'll come to you. It really will.
This is where I feel most at home. Put me in a city and I'd be totally lost.
Yep. His name is Corky Burge.
Yep.
And he's a cowboy in Montana. The real thing.
There just comes a time to decide whether to chase the bucks or to chase a peace within yourself. And right now, the quality of my life is what's most important to me.
After his 2 daughters, Corky loves ranch life more than anything else on earth.
There's the openness out here. That kind of puts things in perspective, I think.
There's a lot to love about this part of the country. There's still some of the romance of the Old West. The only thing missing for people like Corky is someone to love.
I'm looking for the one woman I'd like to spend the rest of my life with.
But finding her is not that easy when it's 2 miles to the mailbox, 50 miles to the grocery store, and 300 miles to the nearest shopping mall.
It's different. It takes a special type of person to live here.
Do you get lonely out here?
Sure.
So Corky decided to advertise.
I'm looking for an intelligent lady with a positive attitude towards life.
She should have strong family values and share some common interests with me.
Across the state in western Montana at the Sweetheart Ranch, Cupcake James, her husband Charlie, and daughter Lise publish Sweetheart, a monthly magazine of personal ads distributed free in Montana and Wyoming. If you're looking for love, this is the right place.
Corky's going to go in this upper corner.
Boy, he's got some blue eyes, doesn't he?
When not ranching, Charlie James distributes the magazine. He's known as the Cowboy Cupid.
I like to think that we mend broken hearts and fix broken ones.
Among his best matches, Alda and Ed Allen.
How old were you when you met Ed?
79.
The Allens, both widowed, lived miles apart and learned that love can never come too late.
As long as we both shall live, that's the vows we said.
Well, everybody needs love, you know, and I bet you Ed's going to live a few more years because he's got Alta.
We truly believe there's someone for everyone, and everyone deserves a shot.
Betty Jean Dutton believed that too, so last fall she took out an ad in Sweetheart. She knew just what she was looking for in Mr. Right.
He's got good family values. He's willing to go to church with me on Sundays and raise his kids in that lifestyle.
and she thinks she struck gold. This is Devitt, one of 65 men who saw the ad and contacted Betty Jean. As far as she's concerned, he's the one.
Oh, he makes my heart flutter, yeah.
They haven't met yet because Devitt is 700 miles away in eastern Washington clearing snow off mountain passes. He'll be dropping by come the spring thaw. As for Corky, his ad is in this month's issue.
Is it going to work? I don't know. Is it better than doing nothing? I definitely think so.
Hang in there, Corky. There's always hope, even for a lonesome cowboy. Harry Smith, CBS News, Fort Peck, Montana.
That's right there, yeah.
Bernard Brown, now 96 years old, was just 19 when he was drafted into the Army during World War II. Longing for connection back home, he started writing to a childhood friend named Selma. Just 4 months after D-Day, Brown's unit boarded a ship to Europe. His frequent letters to Selma paint a vivid picture of the sacrifice of American forces on the front lines.
After spending 4 nights and 3 days in the mud, sleeping, eating, and trying to fight.
He describes living in a foxhole in the thick of battle in France, and the haunting image of the gaunt Jewish prisoners his unit helped liberate from the Dachau concentration camp. But amid the chaos of war, the letters gradually became a declaration of love.
I really liked this person. It just made me feel good every time I read her letters. And I thought, you know, I've got to know her better. I just have to know her better.
You got pretty sappy there at some point.
Yes, yeah, I was eager. If you only knew how much I want to come back so that you and I can start living a life together.
And after the Germans surrendered in 1945, Brown did just that, marrying Selma 3 months after he returned home. Eventually, they had 3 children and later 5 grandchildren. They were married for 72 years before Selma passed away in 2017. As his family prepared to move him into a Portland retirement facility, his daughter, Shelley, came across a dusty old box.
It was probably around 600 pages of handwritten letters. We would call Dad up and say, tell us about this. What did that mean? And then the kind of memories that were coming out of his mind were incredible.
Although Brown earned a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart, he rarely shared stories of his time overseas.
When you read these letters that you had written so many years before, did they bring tears to your eyes?
Yeah, they did. They brought a lot of memories to me.
How important is it for somebody who's on the front lines to have somebody at home to write to on a regular basis?
I don't care how many letters you got, it wasn't enough. When I'd read her letters, I just felt strong all over again.
Shelley convinced Bernard to publish the letters in a book dedicated to those who didn't make it back home.
So you learned a lot, not only about your mother's and father's relationship and how it began, but a lot about your father.
Yes.
In some way, were these kind of love letters to you, too?
Yes, because we're here, and if he hadn't made it through, we wouldn't be here.
A treasure trove of long-forgotten letters telling a family's love story for generations to come. For CBS This Morning, Chip Reed, Washington.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for a wedding and a bride you won't soon forget.
The dress was white, but according to residents at the O'Bannon Terrace retirement home outside Cincinnati, everything else about this wedding was far from traditional.
The ceremony was very, I'm looking for the right word.
Crazy?
Oh, yeah. But that's Dottie.
Is that you?
76-year-old Dottie Fideli, who had been divorced for decades, was always the life of the party. A costume-wearing, attention-glaring, but forever caring friend.
Dottie's a very loving person. Always in a great mood. Always just doing something to make somebody laugh and happy.
But even though she seemed so vivacious and confident to others, before she found the love of her life, Dottie saw a very different person in the mirror.
A little dummy. I couldn't read. And people have conversations, and I had to stay out of them because I didn't understand. So I started reading. I didn't tell nobody.
Started teaching yourself?
Yes, because practice makes perfect. Let's see.
It took almost 2 years of nightly practice, but today she has conquered her illiteracy.
Whitewater Canal.
And Dottie says it was reading that helped her find love again. A love like she'd never known. Love of self. And so last month, Dottie married Dottie.
Love is patient.
Obviously, it wasn't a real wedding.
Love is kind.
But Dottie says it was meant as a serious reminder that before you can share love, you first have to glean it from the only known source, within.
And you'll find out it's all a bed of roses.
The message that she put across that day of how life should be
really touched a lot of people's hearts.
And now opens the possibility for perhaps a real wedding.
Is there a man out there that could top the love you have right now?
That's not happening.
You're happy with who you married?
I'm happy with who I am.
Sounds like this one's taken.
Yeah, I'm going home.
Steve Hartman, on the road, near Cincinnati.
Theirs is the most improbable of love stories.
There were really no romantic sparks at first because we were both miserable.
Taylor Givens and Colin Cabellia had just received heart transplants in the same Virginia hospital on the same day, recovering in neighboring rooms.
I just didn't want to really talk about what I went through.
Fast forward 5 years. They reconnected on the anniversary of their heart transplants.
I definitely felt a spark, and I wasn't expecting that at all.
But the heart works in mysterious ways.
We went to dinner, we caught up. It was cute because we had to take our medicine at the same time.
It was great to start dating someone who you didn't have to explain anything to.
They married in 2019.
And it just was very exciting to know we have a normal life and the things that we want aren't unobtainable, and that was a really special feeling.
The couple has since dealt with some serious health challenges, and no more are ahead.
Having him beside me, I'm not as afraid of things, even things like my mortality.
You know, we both been through essentially one of the worst experiences you can go through in life. It definitely feels like anything else life throws at us we can handle.
Together, a special love from the heart. Jan Crawford, CBS News, Washington.
We want to share a touching tribute that a Connecticut man left for his family. 32-year-old Jonathan Coelho died last week from cardiac arrest due to the coronavirus. When he was hospitalized, he wrote a note on his phone to his wife and 2 young children. Our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, spoke to Coelho's wife. David, good morning.
Tony, morning. Jonathan spent 27 days in the hospital before he died alone. And before he was placed on a ventilator, he wrote a note to his wife, which she read at the hospital after he died. He wrote in the note what he wanted her to tell their 2 children, who are too young to remember their father. To his 2-year-old son, Braden, who has special needs, he wrote, "Tell him he's my best bud, and I am proud to be his father." To his 4-month-old daughter, Penelope, he wrote, "Let her know she's a princess and she can have whatever she wants in life." And to his wife, Katie, he thanked her for giving him the best life he could have had. And then he said this: "If you meet someone, don't hold back, because if they love you and the kids like I do, then I love that for you."
You think he knew?
I think he did. I think he was scared. That was written the day before, the few hours actually before he was intubated, and we were still texting and communicating during this time. You don't fight for 28 days and think that you're not gonna come home. So I don't think he gave up, but I think he knew that if it was gonna be that bad, that I wasn't gonna be able to talk to him again, and he knew that I would need something. And my kids are so young and they're not gonna know their dad or remember their dad, so we're gonna have to
share with them what a great person he was. And I think he wanted them to hear from him how much he loved them and how much he cared about them.
So beautiful that you know, I hope you have what he wrote to you etched in some kind of stone or artwork and hung somewhere, because those are his final words written to you.
Yeah, and his best man at our wedding found my husband's wedding vows. He had emailed to him the day of our wedding, which I haven't seen or heard since the day we got married. And he sent them to me, and seeing the words he said the first day we became husband and wife, and then the last words he said to me, it just echoed how much like the love had just increased. And it was just so, you could see from start to finish, my husband worshiped us. And I'm so thankful I have those words, but they're also very haunting because they're all I have left.
For many, it's a mystery that blooms anew every spring.
How many years has this been here? I don't know, a long time though.
This field of daffodils, far too many to be growing by chance, far too beautiful to not stop and stroll, seems randomly set along a narrow 2-lane road in southwestern Connecticut.
When I drive by, it just brings tears to my eyes, because that's how I remember them.
To Patty Pavlik, this field is no mystery. Her aunt and uncle, Bud and Florence McQuaid, used to own the land. Patty says her Uncle Bud planted these daffodils because Florence loved them so, and because he loved her so, through 60 years of marriage.
So every day was as happy as this day?
I would surmise so. Mm-hmm.
As testament?
Yes, yes.
Today, there are roughly 40,000 flowers.
That was his memory of her.
After Florence died, dividing the bulbs to grow more became Bud's annual tribute and obsession. He lived to 103, planting daffodils almost to the very end. Bud passed in 2019, and his property went on the market. It's a prime building lot, so many thought that would be the end of it.
You know, someone would build something on this, and this would become just someone's front lawn, and the flowers would be gone.
But neighbor Stacy Steinmetz stepped in, buying the property and the metaphor that comes with it.
I guess just like his love grew, the field continues to grow.
You know, it's everlasting and it's expanding, so I certainly wouldn't want that to be lost.
So it stays, an eternal sign of spring and brilliantly illustrated love story, documenting in vivid color for couples everywhere.
It smells so good.
It does. Just how endless love can be. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Redding, Connecticut.
For most people, Valentine's Day probably means some combination of flowers and candy, maybe a dinner date. But here at CBS Mornings, we wanted to take a closer look at love and its many meanings. So we sent our contributor, Jamie Wax, to talk to an esteemed group of experts. Very intuitive group you got here, natural-born experts, you might call them. And he's here to share their insights now. Jamie, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. That's true. It is said that love makes us all feel like kids again. So our experts in this case are second graders at Laley Elementary School in Naples, Florida. We wanted to know all their thoughts on love and began by asking the big question we all ponder at some point: what is love?
Love is like, it's where you really like somebody and your heart it really wants to be with them. Love is, to me, is helping others, caring, respecting. Love is family. I don't know how to explain it that much. Hugging, liking, and loving people.
Why is love important?
My dad loves me, my mom loves me, my brother sometimes hits me, but still he loves me. Because,
Is love important?
yes.
And why do you think?
Because, it gives people joy. Love is important because if we didn't have love, then there wouldn't be as much people in this world.
Who's the perfect person for you that you'd want to grow old with?
They had to like what I like. They love me for me.
What does that mean exactly?
It means that they don't want me to change for who I am.
What about when grown-ups talk about romance? What is romance?
In movies, if like somebody kisses, they always kiss like on the lips or like. So for some reason, they always kiss like with their tongue and lips. Oh. In movies, I see they don't just like kiss for 1 second. They kiss for a long time.
It's too long, right?
Yeah. And then I'm like, I'm going to my room. My parents don't even kiss.
They don't kiss?
No. Thank you for saying never. When you're 16, you can like marry someone.
When you're 16?
Yeah.
You think that's a good age to get married?
Yeah.
Are you going to get married when you're 16?
Yeah, my mom says I can't be married because I'm 7.
Do you want to get married?
Of course I want to get married.
How old do you want to be when you get married?
17.
Have you ever been in love with anybody?
I did have a boyfriend. I can't believe I had a boyfriend when I was 7.
What would you do on a date?
I would go somewhere really good, like to a good restaurant. You can just go somewhere like a really good store or...
What's a good store to take someone to on a date?
Walmart.
Wait a second.
Walmart! Valentine's Day is to show people how much you love them. Let me teach you how to draw a heart.
Teach me how to draw a heart. Yeah.
Valentine's Day. It's about caring about other people, love, being nice to other people, giving things. The best gift I ever got was being loved.
This weekend's Grammy Awards are sure to include plenty of love songs, but none can top the one Steve Hartman found on the road.
I remember that.
It's been 61 years of wedded bliss. But Mort and Susan Block of Kennett Square, Pennsylvania say they're meant to be. Almost never was.
Right.
Not because of Mort. He knew he wanted to marry her from day one.
It was just like that. It was instant for me.
But Susan, not so much.
I didn't have any grandiose feelings that it was going to go anywhere.
To complicate matters, Mort was a sailor. And after that first date, he headed out to sea, where, on the bridge of the destroyer Hazelwood, he wrote a song for Susan.
And my feelings were, I miss you more each day, since you've gone away.
The song was called My Love, and it worked its magic.
My love. And then it went in a drawer, and it stayed there. Enter my grandson.
Then I was like, oh, what's that?
Matt Block saw the sheet music and shared it with some friends.
Everyone was like, damn, this is a hit. This is great.
Matt works in the music industry, so he was able to gather some of the best studio musicians in the country. And together, they took that dusty old love song and made it sing.
You never seem to know that I love you so.
Mort's love song, originally intended for an audience of one, has now been played more than 1 million times on social media.
I was floored.
Running up and down the hall. It was unbelievable.
And that is just the beginning. This fall, Mort Block, now 82, will grace the cover of an album featuring My Love and other collaborations. Perhaps a Grammy next year. But for Mort and Susan, like couples everywhere,
cheers.
The song of the year will always be their song.
Through our joy and our tears, my love.
Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania.
With Valentine's Day coming up, we end tonight with a love story. The plot is familiar, two people in a tug of heartstrings over another. And at the center of it, well, here's Chip Reed.
Meet Spike, a member of the Canine Patrol with the Virginia Capitol Police. Sweet as he is, though, Spike is also a heartbreaker. He didn't mean to be, he just got caught in a love triangle. At the state capitol in Richmond today, Spike was reunited with U.S. Marine Jared Heine. They hadn't seen each other in 3 years.
Right when he got next to me, he knew it was me.
He knew that was you?
Yes, sir. Pushed up against me. It's like we didn't skip a beat.
They were a team in Afghanistan where Spike's job was to sniff out bombs.
So he risked his life every day to keep you and your buddies alive?
Yes, sir, he did. He did a great job at it. He was like my brother, like my kid. Like, he slept with me every day. Like, we were inseparable. Like, 24/7 we were together.
But after a series of traumatic brain injuries, Jared was sent home to Louisiana, where he's been struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Jared's just been so upset lately and depressed, excuse me for saying that, but just not been himself.
His mother, Mary Heine, was desperate to find help. She says he talked all the time about how much he missed Spike. So she went online, and with the help of friends on Facebook, she found him in Virginia.
In your dream world, would you like Spike to come home with you at some point?
In my dream world, yes, sir. That would be awesome.
But that's where Officer Laura Taylor comes in.
It was pretty much love at first sight.
She and Spike have been inseparable for the past 2 years.
I didn't ever expect to not be with Spike, until he was an old man.
Recently, though, she learned about Jared Heine and realized that she and Spike might have to part ways.
He's more important to me than anybody can know, but we have to do what's right for the whole situation.
Today, after meeting Jared, she said that as painful as it is, she knows in her heart it's the right thing to do.
Just take good care of him. He means everything to me.
The good news, though, is that Capitol Police Chief Steve Pike said Taylor will soon get a new dog, and the guessing is she'll fall in love with that one, too. Chip Reed, CBS News, Richmond.
In 6 days, we will mark 1 year since the COVID outbreak was declared a pandemic. But as the world was shutting down, something special was blooming. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
This has been the worst year for dating, bar none, movie none, and restaurants with all the ambiance of a parking meter. But here, along the banks of the Hudson River in upstate New York, we found a couple of singles who are making it work despite the pandemic.
Wait a minute, getting your glasses up.
And that awkward eyewear.
That's it for the week.
John Schultz
He's a lot of baloney.
and his girlfriend, Joy Morrow Knowlton, are both 94, each widowed twice, and each determined to find love yet again. They're now vaccinated, but had to be in a bubble most of the year.
Did you ever think it was just too hard?
No. She was worth it. It was a pain in the neck, though.
Perseverance.
Pete Schultz is John's son.
They would call every day. They'd find a way to get together, but they did whatever it took.
You haven't held hands with me all day, by the way. Hold my hand.
What it took, they say, was a return to simple pleasures, like long drives to nowhere, batting balloons around the house, and a whole lot of selflessness.
She bought me a walker.
She bought you a walker?
$159, I think.
Whoa.
I told you she had money. She did have it, so she bought my walker.
Not to be outdone, John bought her a little something too. Although he had to pop the question way more than once.
Oh, dozens.
Dozens?
Finally, I said okay.
Wait, what made you finally say yes?
When we had snow days this year, and I didn't come up here, I missed him.
This week, John and Joy held a rehearsal for their spring wedding. It'll be the silk purse at the end of this sow's year. All possible because these romantics realized early on that a good date is nothing more than good company.
There's some ice floes right out in the middle there.
Steve Hartman.
In fact, there's a whole line of them.
On the road in Kingston, New York.
And there's nothing better than finding your special someone. Okay, there's a blizzard in the forecast, a blizzard of Valentines. Here's John Blackstone.
At the age of 104, Major Bill White remains every inch the Marine he was in World War II. In the battle for Iwo Jima, a grenade exploded beside him.
It proceeded to blow hell out of me.
He's seen combat, but he's never seen so many Valentines.
You gotta be kidding.
Every day for weeks, Valentine's cards and gifts have been arriving by the truckload at the Oaks Assisted Living Center, all addressed to Major White.
And all of a sudden, out of a clear blue sky, all hell breaks loose.
It all started simply enough when staff at the Oaks and Major White's daughter Mary made a small request on social media.
We were hoping, he's 104 years old. We get 104 Valentines. That would be cool.
The last account somebody ever gave me was 140,000 different pieces. 140,000.
Now, almost every surface at the assisted living center is covered with Valentines. They come from school children and veterans and families who know the sacrifice of service.
This is both my father and father-in-law served in World War II. Sadly, they are both gone.
Mary and Major White read as many as they can.
It just says, "You've stolen the hearts of America."
So many hearts. Perhaps never before has Valentine's Day brought one person more affection.
The whole thing has just been beyond my feeble powers of comprehension.
John Blackstone, CBS News, Stockton, California.
Nursing homes can be lonely around the holidays, even more so this year because COVID is keeping visitors out. Human visitors, that is. Tonight, CBS's Chip Reed takes us to a nursing home near Madison, Wisconsin, where folks are getting a weekly dose of, yes, we're going to say it again, puppy love.
If you're looking for a trained service dog, you might want to look somewhere else.
Is she a little bit of a clown?
Oh, yeah. She's a big clown.
But nursing home residents Vi Tully and Helen Ziegler say 5-month-old Sadie does provide a service.
She brings some life to the whole building.
With the coronavirus raging in the outside world, life in a sealed-off nursing home can be painfully lonely.
We don't get much company right now. We're all locked up. She's about the only company we get.
Terry Fichter, volunteer coordinator at SSM Health in Baraboo, Wisconsin, spotted Sadie outside the building with her owner.
And out came this little yellow ball of fire. And I said, can I bring her in the building? And he goes, sure.
She's visited once a week for 3 months.
How do most of the residents respond to Sadie?
They just want to pet her and talk to her and smell her puppy breath. She even brings a tear to some of the residents' eyes. She just makes everybody happy. Who doesn't like a puppy?
And who doesn't like what a rambunctious puppy can do for people who really need a friend? Chip Reed, CBS News.
Here's some more good news. Sadie's owner says he plans to keep bringing his dog to the nursing home long after COVID restrictions are lifted.
All winter, Dean Reynolds in Chicago has been reporting on bone-chilling cold. Well, tonight he's brought us a story guaranteed to warm your heart.
This is the rare picture of me meeting Hemingway.
91-year-old Art Shea has been telling stories with his camera for 60 years. Working mostly for Life magazine, he captured an amazing roster of subjects, from Kennedy to Ali, from Eleanor Roosevelt to Elizabeth Taylor. But paged through the thousands of stills, and one story stands out.
This is the first photograph?
Yeah, we were both 20 and it was up in the Catskills.
Art's focus was often squarely on Florence, his wife, catching her in private moments or public events. His Leica had a tendency to locate her.
Did she ever say, would you put that camera away, for God's sake?
Yes,
You're
many
making
times,
yourself
and I always did it. And you know, the litany of all true photographers is just one more.
Sure, sure.
A photograph is a biography of a moment.
Strung together, they chart a lifetime.
She was 29 here.
Wow. She looks about 19.
That's my favorite picture of her.
The photos of their love story are now on display at Columbia College in Chicago.
Yeah, that was in the 60s.
The exhibit is called My Florence, a tribute to their 67 years of marriage.
Does it make you feel closer to
Yes,
Florence?
Very much so.
What is the last picture you took of her that is in the show?
The picture of her 4 weeks before she died.
Florence would have been 92 on Valentine's Day.
This is the only picture of her really in pain.
When she got sick, did you two discuss that you were going to continue to photograph her?
I assigned myself to do her life as I remembered it, with the joy, the happiness, and only a touch of her sickness.
Florence passed away from cancer in August 2012. Art says gathering the photos for the show has helped him heal, though not entirely.
It's very hard to do. She did like this picture quite a bit. Florence did say, "Don't cry for me when the time comes, because I had a wonderful life." And she did, and we did.
The evidence is right there in the pictures. Dean Reynolds, CBS News, Chicago.
Remembering 60 years back is hard for anyone, but for Melvin Amrine, the groom in these pictures, it's especially challenging.
Did I invite you to marry me, or did you ask me?
No, you asked me to marry you.
Oh, is that right?
Melvin was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 3 years ago.
Some of that is kind of lost.
For his wife, Doris, it's been hard to watch. But she says something happened recently to remind her that the man she fell in love with is still in there.
It's special because even though the mind doesn't remember everything, the heart remembers. Okay.
It happened the day before Mother's Day, when Melvin, who normally needs help just walking around the block, turned up missing.
See a white male by the name of Melvin Amrine.
Police dispatch here in Little Rock, Arkansas, put out the call.
He left the house walking approximately 40 minutes ago.
They eventually found him 2 miles from his house.
Police say they get these calls every once in a while of an Alzheimer's patient out wandering aimlessly. But this one was different. When the officers approached Melvin, they say it was clear. He was a man on a mission.
It was absolutely a moment of clarity for him.
Sergeant Brian Grigsby and Officer Troy Dillard say even though Melvin didn't know his address or where he'd come from, he absolutely knew where he was going.
I mean, he was pretty adamant. He wasn't going home until he got those flowers.
Flowers?
That's what he wanted. He wanted flowers for his wife because tomorrow was Mother's Day.
Melvin had bought flowers for his wife every Mother's Day since the birth of their first child, and he wasn't going to disappoint her now.
We had to get those flowers. We had to get them. I didn't have a choice.
So after telling dispatch they were taking the man right home,
and there's a Kroger's.
The officers secretly stopped by the grocery store. Surveillance video shows them helping Melvin pick out the flowers. And when Melvin came up short at the register, look who slipped the cashier the difference. Meanwhile, back at home, a very worried wife was about to get the gift of a lifetime.
As he came up those steps, and I saw those roses and the smile on his face, I just broke inside. I just said, thank you, because I saw his heart.
Amazing what's possible when love becomes an instinct. Steve Hartman, on the road in Little Rock.
Finally here on this St. Valentine's Day, where's the best spot for advice? Seth Doan knows just the place, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene.
There is something undeniably romantic about the Italian city of Verona, where William Shakespeare set his famed tale Romeo and Juliet. Tourists make a sort of love pilgrimage here to what's celebrated as Juliet Capulet's house. Christina Spagnuolo, who usually works in a gelato shop, moonlights as Juliet and collects some of the thousands of letters that pour in annually, seemingly from another era.
We use phone, telephone, Instagram, Facebook, and it's beautiful to see that people write with paper and pen,
Those letters wind up at the Juliet Club, where they're carefully pondered by a rotating cast of volunteers. On this day, 3 Americans studying abroad in Italy are standing in as Juliet.
Juliet is an icon of love and romance, and you want to make sure that you're really embodying that and really getting into that.
And it looks lovely.
They answer letters on topics that run the gamut: falling in love with your friend, falling out of love with your spouse. Giovanna Tommaso is the president of the Juliet Club. She said letters have been coming to Verona since the 1930s, after a Hollywood film was released.
This writer, she said, she was going through a divorce and now she feels like she needs help trusting and connecting with people again.
What do you say to her?
You have to keep putting yourself out there, even though you've been, hurt before.
The number of letters they receive is increasing.
Dear Juliet,
perhaps in our fast-paced world, there's something to be gained by slowing down and seeking the advice of a simpler time. Seth Doan, CBS News, Verona, Italy.
Hopeless romantic that he is, Steve Hartman went looking for a Valentine story. He found a gem on the road to the emergency room.
At St. Clair's Hospital in Denville, New Jersey, they still can't stop talking about it.
You don't forget any call like that.
A few months ago, these emergency responders got a call for a man with chest pain. And what a heart they found.
First thing he said was, "Don't let me die."
He said that to me too. He said all he wanted to do was take his wife out to Ruth Chris for dinner.
Her favorite restaurant.
It was pretty cute.
Those were the final words of 91-year-old Joe Lefkin. His last wish before suffering a major heart attack was to take his wife to dinner one last time.
It seemed as though he loved her a great deal.
His wife, Margie, can't tell you how hard it is to lose the love of your life. Can't tell you because her husband's death was short-lived.
Oh, you're making me lunch, honey?
Yes, darling.
Joe was gone just 10 minutes before medics restarted his heart. And what amazed them was what he woke up shouting.
He said, Ruth Chris!
He's coming back from the dead, he's saying the same thing?
Exactly. He said exactly the same thing.
Joe got his dinner with Margie. On the house, of course. But they say the greater gift is still giving.
We're just closer. If that's possible. Is this true, Boom?
Oh, yeah. She's one in a million, Steve. I can still make her swoon. You want to see it?
Yeah. Well, no, take that back. Okay. Meant no when I said yeah.
Oh, dear. Are we too much?
You're too much, yeah.
This weekend, couples across America will go out, assuming there will be many more Valentines to come.
Here's something else.
But not Joe and Margie. They will go to dinner, appreciating each other now more than ever.
Steve, she's got 6 men.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. Please don't say that. You're on the air.
And they're all waiting for me to check out.
You shouldn't say that.
You've got so many guys that love
You're
you.
on the air.
Well, he's going to cut this all out.
Please, I hope so.
You gotta love.
I'm going to feel the way I do.
Young love.
Today, 'cause you make me feel so young. Yep.
Steve Hartman on the road in Denville, New Jersey.
How does Steve find these stories?
Okay. Everything's coming up roses, lilies, and yes, even carnations at this warehouse in Queens, New York. The clock is ticking, and these bouquet creators are moving swiftly, with February 14th just days away.
How is this going to look coming up to Valentine's Day?
Well, we won't have any empty space like this. It'll all be full like we have over here. We're starting to bring the product in. This place will be blooming.
Chris McCann is the CEO of 1-800-Flowers, one of the largest online gift retailers. This week, those same shelves have been filled with bouquets, 6,000 of them, ready to be delivered across New York City.
Roses are the big one?
Yeah, out of 22 million stems that we'll sell for Valentine's Day, 14 million will be roses.
With families and loved ones separated by the pandemic, the company as a whole anticipates revenue growing by about 50% this quarter.
So this will be your biggest Valentine's Day ever?
We believe it will be.
Second only to Mother's Day in demand, Valentine's Day is synonymous with fresh blossoms, and plenty of them. The majority of these blooms come from Ecuador or Colombia, home to nearly 65% of the flowers in the U.S.
It took a little more work to get us to the point where we could actually make roses bloom in February.
Amy Stewart is the author of Flower Confidential, a book about the global flower industry.
Being able to get roses in the middle of winter was very closely linked to advances in transportation. First, it was having rail cars and automobiles that could get flowers from farms to markets, and then it was airplanes to get them from warm climates to cold climates.
On Thursday, the last of the Valentine's Day flowers were flown in and processed at Miami International Airport. The stems thoroughly inspected at customs. Amir Pineda oversees the operation.
About 1.1 billion stems of flowers come through from the beginning of January through February 15th.
Before continuing on to florists and distributors around the country, all planned, planted, and primed for one peak day, February 14th.
How difficult is it to make sure that timing is just right?
When we're bringing the flowers in from the farms, we have ethylene gas inhibitors in there to make sure that the gas mix is proper for the flowers. So there's so much of a science that goes into this. I thought I was getting into a flower business, running one store, and then getting into this virtual e-commerce business. What we've had to learn about logistics and distribution of perishable products has just been fascinating.
The McCann family started with a single flower shop in New York 45 years ago, before centering their brand around 1-800-Flowers, as toll-free numbers took off.
Now more than 5,000 of America's finest florists have the same telephone number, 1-800-Flowers.
Then another game changer.
So we started to dabble in e-commerce back in 1991 with a platform I don't know if anyone still remembers, CompuServe. We were the first merchant to sell any product of any kind on AOL in 1994. Taking that through the 2000s, we just rode the wave of e-commerce.
Their flowers now come from partner farms, as well as a network of 5,000 florists nationwide. The company has expanded across 15 brands of gifts, including Harry and David and the Popcorn Factory, delivering to 160 countries. It hasn't always been a bed of roses. Customer complaints about delayed deliveries and bouquets far from what their pictures promised have made the rounds on social media.
Things that didn't really show up like they were advertised. What went wrong?
Now, when you're dealing with a perishable product, sometimes you're going to have challenges. Weather can pose a challenge. Both extreme cold, extreme heat can pose a challenge. But the key is how we respond to that. And when you look at how customers are reaching us these days, it's through social media. We respond to those messages on social media within 3 to 5 minutes on average.
McCann points to that customer service as their competitive edge. They also enterprise new concepts like roses that last a year and partnerships with celebrities like fashion designer Jason Wu. Constant innovation and a long tradition.
Where does the idea of gifting flowers for Valentine's Day come from?
Because Valentine's Day is in February, it's not the easiest time to give somebody flowers. So originally we sent paper cards, but it really wasn't until greenhouse technology came along and made it possible to make flowers bloom in February that migrated over into Valentine's Day. And that was kind of the 1920s.
Stewart says the idea of gifting bouquets dates back to the ancient Romans. But the Victorians in particular embraced the language of flowers, using specific blooms to convey careful messages they couldn't otherwise say aloud. Some of those notes endure today.
Part of it is just tradition. It's really just embedded in our cultural awareness. There's not a culture anywhere in the world that doesn't view flowers as this kind of romantic way of expressing a sentiment.
And those feelings of affection are only heightened this Valentine's Day, as we hold the people we love closer than ever, at least in our hearts, if not always in person.
How do you think this Valentine's Day is going to stack up in the history of Valentine's Days for 1-800-Flowers?
Well, in the history books, this Valentine's Day will certainly have an asterisk as being a very different one, and we think it's one of the most important Valentine's Days of our career.
A day that's the culmination of an incredible year-long effort, encompassing the work of many, for a simple message between two. For CBS This Morning Saturday, Nancy Chen, New York.
We end tonight with a man who has so much love, he had to build a special place to keep it all. Steve Hartman met him on the road.
Around Starkville, Mississippi, retired mail carrier Charles Evans is known mostly for his questionable taste in lawn furnishings. But we came last year for something undeniably beautiful.
The man with the plan.
Charles met his wife Louise back in 1949.
When you looked at her, it's
whoa,
like electrical shock.
Really?
I guess it's love.
To Charles, true love is so powerful, nothing can stop it.
That's a big four-letter word.
Nothing.
Straighten it out.
Which is why, after she died in 2011, after 60 years of marriage, he decided a grave marker wasn't enough, that their love deserved more than a monument. What their love needed was a museum. And so, in a little outbuilding behind his house, Charles Evans built just that.
This is our memorabilia area.
Inside, he's got the shoe shine stand he was working at when he met her. He's got all the music they used to dance to. And he's got 4 walls packed solid with pictures, documenting every significant occasion.
And this was, we went out to lunch.
And most every insignificant occasion.
This was a different place at lunch.
Different lunch.
And this, she didn't like that one because they caught her laughing with food in her mouth.
Needless to say, he wasn't getting a whole lot of visitors, which was fine by Charles.
It's our last dance.
In fact, we got the sense he almost enjoyed his alone time more. On slow days, he would slow dance with Louise.
I guess I'm trying to relive our life, would you think?
Maybe.
I don't know. It's so hard to explain, you know. But it's not a suffering memory, it's a beautiful memory, you know.
Fortunately, a lot of our viewers could relate. Since that story first aired, 250 people from as far away as India have come to see the museum. Some even go for a spin with the curator. Of course, none of these new dance partners can hold a candle to his Louise. But Charles says he's still happy that people are getting the message of his museum.
Us again.
That love can never be lost, as long as it's savored.
Yeah, she was lovely.
Steve Hartman, on the road, in Starkville, Mississippi.
Charles Evans keeping that love electricity alive.